This is a virtual presentation for the 2020 Constructed Environment Conference. My name is Jay Venkatrajdeep, an undergraduate student from Ayojan School of Architecture, Jaipur, India. I would be talking today about a study conducted by me and Professor Parul of School of Planning and Architecture, Purnima University, Jaipur, on lessons from Khasi tribe, architecture for sericulture. For those who are not familiar with the term sericulture, for this research we have defined sericulture as the entire process from cultivation to production, that is rearing of silkworms to production of finished fabric. Rearing is the process where silkworm lays eggs, hatches out, forms a cocoon and flies away after maturity, while weaving is the process of making a finished cloth from yarn obtained after boiling the cocoons. Silk production is regarded as an important tool for economic development of a country, as it is a labor-intensive and high-income generating industry that churns out value-added products of economic importance, although it being a high-value but low-volume product, accounting for only 0.2% of world's total textile production. Asia is the main producer of silk in the world and produces over 95% of the total global output. India is the second largest producer of silk and also the largest consumer of silk in the world. The map below shows the distribution of silk production in India. Majorly 4 types of natural silk which are commercially known and produced in the world, which are Tussar, Eri, Muga and Mulberry. Among them, Mulberry silk is the most important and contributes as much as 90% of world production. Triboi is a small district in the state of Meghalaya with many tribes residing there. Majority of them belong to the Khasi tribe. They follow the matrilineal system where the child bears the title of the mother. Umden is a small village with a population of 342 people. Umden acts as a dam to the river running through, hence the origin of its name, meaning water and Den meaning dam. The people fulfill the livelihood by practicing weaving, pottery, agriculture and basketry. Silkworm rearing and weaving has an ancient history in Umden, small cluster of villages in northeastern part of India. It is one of the repositories in India that makes silk. The women breed the worms in their houses, protecting them from other insects and don't kill them before hatching out of the cocoon. They ensure the worm receives the best care in order to receive best quality of silk. India is full of small communities with indigenous practices of high potential, but they still have to face vulnerable life conditions. The indigenous practices of remote communities, especially weavers, have begun to die out. The mass production of modern fabrics, cheaper and easier availability, has replaced the age-old local cottage-produced yarns. To figure out the role of architecture in the empowerment of remotely settled tribes with indigenous practices of high potential, the reason as to why this certain practice of piece silk is not being practiced worldwide, and how can it become a sustainable model for rest of the world for sericulture. Comparison of various existing traditional vernacular models for spatial layout, quality, material application, resource consumption, etc., and draw recommendations as to what may be adopted, interpreted, and retained to achieve best possible combinations. What is the relationship between architecture and indigenous practices? What is the social structure of the communities? How do they initiate, propagate, and practice their professions? What are the different needs in sericulture which can be fulfilled through architecture? What are the impacts economically, environmentally, physically, culturally, and technologically of the practices in sericulture? Are the vernacular practices followed sustainable in nature with minimal impact on the environment? Why is eco-sericulture not so prevalent? Comparison of organic silk or piece silk with the other forms of silk available to us. What role can architecture play in empowering these communities? Rearing is usually conducted in interior spaces and not exterior, as the silkworms are vulnerable to other animals or insects trying to eat them. Proper mosquito nets are installed in the rearing spaces to protect them and retain the good quality of silk. Once the worms have eaten enough, they are kept in the spinning tokeries where they spin their cocoons, after which the moths are allowed to leave the cocoon and go peacefully to complete their life cycle. The cocoons are washed, rinsed, and flattened into cakes and sun-dried on bamboo sticks. The major weaving spaces had 3 typologies, that is, they were done either in the veranda, semi-open workshed, upper mezzanine, or below the stilts of the house. These spaces are equipped with all the necessities for weaving process. The process of organic dyeing is very indigenous as they don't use any kind of chemicals to dye on the fabric. The women use turmeric for yellow color, iron ore for black, and other natural materials which have positive effects on the skin. It takes a couple of hours per batch followed by drying in semi-open spaces. This prevents the water being used from getting polluted and can be easily filtered again for reuse. The raw materials for dyeing are entirely local and do not cause any harm. Architectural parameters affecting the quality of space for vernacular practices. Cluster arrangement. The organization of the clusters affects the efficiency of the practice. Codependent activities are preferred to be in proximity while the rest need to be placed according to easy connectivity. Regular airflow. Constant cross ventilation is required for optimal production as it keeps the quality of the silk fresh, natural and completely organic. This is the reason why majority of weaving spaces are semi-open in nature, example terraces, verandas, etc. Balanced humidity. Excess of humidity can affect the quality of fabric being produced as it may cause dampness, creating problems in weaving of the product and improper functioning of the loom. Excess humidity also affects the growth rate and cycle of the silkworm. Adequate light. Proper exposure to natural light is required for the weaving process, along with an exposure of not more than 20 lux is optimal for growth of silkworms. Group activity spaces. Major activities in sericulture require group effort, hence collaborative spaces and linear spillovers are preferred for activities like dyeing, drying, etc. The first image shows the existing cluster plan in Ribui, which shows that majority of area goes for rearing and cultivation, followed by weaving spaces. Home-built artisanal clusters with interlinks in the reeling and winding areas serves the purpose right. The entire cluster serves best as a touristic attraction as it has tangible and intangible heritage values which are of huge importance and need to be conserved. Linear spill-out spaces for group activities are very beneficial as they provide good ambience and space for such activities which can also be adopted for dyeing. Weaving clusters in correlation with reeling and stitching areas can serve as a better cohesiveness and efficient functioning, hence correlated activities nearby. The second image is of the proposed cluster focusing towards improving the sustainability and function. Spaces for sericulture. Different activities in sericulture require different types of spaces for most optimal functioning, like rearing in closed spaces, weaving in semi-open spaces, etc. The quality of space directly impacts the quality of silk produced. The activity spatial quality matrix and activity spatial quality diagram shows what types of qualities are preferable for which kind of space according to the requirements. Weaving favorable for semi-open and closed spaces, rearing in closed and open spaces, while dyeing in semi-open and open spaces and other subsidiary activities. To improve the current situation of weavers in Ribui, remedies of both tangible and intangible nature have to be applied. The intangible aspects consist of the following: exhibitions, opportunity to sell on a community basis to customers and government agencies and a chance for bidding on price. Multiple languages for better communication and understanding with tourists and rest of the world. Design innovation as a mixture of their traditional knowledge with modern choices resulting in a new vernacular style. Global communication and connectivity to provide access to information and resources, better networking with buyers and sharing their ancient knowledge techniques around the globe. Economy and sales as knowledge about the same can help them in becoming better designers and entrepreneurs. Capacity building of the individuals in the society can lead them to expertise in various fields, which when brought together become the key pillars of sustainability for any indigenous community. Capacity building of the individuals opens the door to other professions too and provides a great opportunity for individual and community development. As in this case, it can create leading opportunities as textile designers, entrepreneurs, agro and silk tourism for the community. Environmental consciousness of vernacular practice. Usage of natural and organic dyes which ensures reusability of water. Non-violent practice of procuring yarn from cocoon. Use of the waste thread to make new fabric in fill and manure. Soil fertility maintained as only plants indigenous to the place are planted. While in modern practice, chemical dyes being used pollute the water to unfilterable levels, also causing pollution in the lands and rivers, causing a negative ecological impact. Tons of silkworms are killed in the modern practice which can affect the ecological balance, being protested by many animal rights groups like PETA. 25% of the fabric produced goes into waste, which can be used for many other purposes like creating more yarn or infill. Soil pollution due to plantation of crash crops. Cultural impact. The traditional processes are the ancient knowledge passed down over centuries. A direct link is present, that is, representation of their significant motifs is seen in their prints. These motifs are represented in their architecture as part of textures, patterns, and elevations. The image below shows imitation of the pattern in wall elevation. Human engagement. Intricate design work and best characteristic features of silk require intense care. The vernacular practice involves much more human engagement, resulting in better quality of yarn and finished products. It results in employment generation at various levels to a larger audience. Capital. Overall, due to mass production, the industrial process is cheaper, but at the same time, with lesser input cost, one can get better sale price for vernacular practice since they are organic. Also, with an increasing demand for such quality of products, it can be considered as a better option as they are much more economically sound. A probable module for weaver's workspace in Reboy in compliance to the architectural parameters mentioned before for optimal production. As all the activities are connected with each other, a mezzanine is introduced for maintaining a visual connection. The hierarchy of spaces is according to the hierarchy in working order, with master weavers upstairs and rest of the weavers downstairs. Sustainable features like rainwater harvesting and waste pits act as a value addition to the module. Adapt and interpret. Adapting the vernacular practice due to its minimal ecological impact, adapting the local motifs or prints used in the weaves of the community and interpreting them into their architecture to create a sense of belonging for the community, interpreting the vernacular construction techniques and combining them with contemporary materials and modern day requirements for neo-vernacular architecture developed via engagement of the community. Retain characteristics of public and group working spaces. Materials used for construction should be vernacular to maintain the identity. Retention of the values, care, and ideologies to create a connection between the past, present, while being ready for the future. Creation and addition. Addition of measures focusing on resource management like rainwater harvesting, phytofiltration, etc. for water. Use of solar panels for running computers used for value addition to the process of production. Waste management from each process. Research and development for use of raw silk given its high strength in other fields other than textiles. To conclude the presentation, I would like to say that in order to empower an indigenous community, an integrated sustainable system needs to be adopted, which involves creation of repository, exploration of practices, fostering engagement and collaboration, enabling effective experimental learning, bridging the urban-rural gap, and propagating ecological consciousness.